All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about a word that's, well, it's kind of a heavy hitter. We're diving into Leviathan.
A fitting choice, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. And we've got like a whole bunch of sources here, dictionary definitions, we've got some news articles, even a viral video we're going to be looking at. It's going to be a fascinating journey.
It certainly seems that way. I'm quite intrigued.
So get ready, because this word, it's way more than just like a big sea monster. There's a lot more to uncover here.
That's what makes it so interesting, right? How a term that comes from ancient mythology can still be so relevant today.
Absolutely. It's like it speaks to something deeper, some concept that just resonates through time.
Precisely.
So to kick things off, let's go straight to the dictionary. Merriam-Webster, to be exact.
Always a good place to start.
Right. So they define Leviathan in a few different ways, actually. And I gotta say, some of them might surprise you.
Oh, do tell.
Well, of course, there's the classic, like, the mythical sea monster. We've all heard about that one.
Right, the quintessential Leviathan.
But it can also, get this, it can also refer to any large sea creature. Like, not necessarily a monster, just, something big.
Interesting. So the scope broadens a bit.
It does. And it can even be used to describe a powerful entity, like a huge corporation or, like a government.
I see. So it's evolved to encompass any entity that embodies that sense of hugeness, of power.
It's interesting, right, how that initial image of a terrifying sea monster, it's kind of grown to represent anything that feels, overwhelming.
I suppose there's a certain awe factor there as well, a touch of fear, perhaps?
Oh, for sure. And I gotta admit, the word itself is just fun to say. At least in Trenthren. It's got a good ring to it, doesn't it?
It does roll off the tongue quite nicely.
But to really get to the bottom of this word, we need to, go back in time. Way back to its ancient Hebrew roots.
Ah, yes. That's where it all began.
Exactly. So the term Leviathan, it's really tied to this mythical sea monster that was defeated by God.
It's a story that's been told and retold across various religious texts.
Right. And it's not just some random sea monster story either. This narrative, it really solidified the Leviathan as like a major symbol, in religious and cultural context.
It became an archetype, representing chaos, evil, ultimately vanquished by divine power.
And this imagery, it had a huge impact. It shaped people's beliefs for centuries. It's really powerful stuff.
Absolutely.
Speaking of sea monsters, remember that video? The one that went viral a while back. It supposedly showed the Leviathan swimming, like right next to these tourist boats.
Oh, yes, I recall that. It certainly captured the internet's attention for a while.
The internet loves a good mystery, right?
Indeed. And that video, it was quite well made, actually.
It was. It was using what looked like real Google Earth footage as the background, those satellite images.
It appeared quite genuine at first glance.
I have to admit, when I first saw it, I was like, whoa. Those visuals were pretty convincing.
Right.
You got this reptilian-looking creature, huge, massive compared to those tiny boats. Definitely gave me the chills.
It played on our fascination with the unknown, wouldn't you say? Especially the mysteries that lie beneath the ocean's surface.
Oh, absolutely. What about you? When you first saw it, did you have any doubts? Or were you like, yep, that's a Leviathan?
Well, I try to approach such things with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially online, where things can be easily manipulated. However, I must admit the video was quite convincing in its presentation.
It was really well done. So, spill the beans. Was it real or not?
Well, as with many things on the internet, it turned out to be a clever hoax.
A hoax?
Yes. Media outlets and experts quickly debunked the video, showing how this so-called monster was actually digitally added. They used some pretty sophisticated editing techniques.
The magic of technology, right.
It's quite remarkable what can be achieved with modern software. Essentially, they took real Google Earth imagery and they inserted this creature onto it. Seamlessly, I might add.
The internet, always keeping us on our toes.
Indeed. It does raise an interesting point, though, doesn't it?
What's that?
This isn't the first time a hoax like this has popped up. Remember that supposed underwater city a few years back?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It's like people want to believe,
It speaks to a deeper desire, a fascination with the possibility of something truly extraordinary lurking just beyond our reach.
Even though the video was fake, it does kind of make you wonder what else is down there. There's just so much of the ocean that we haven't explored yet.
It's a thought that both excites and terrifies, isn't it? The vastness of the ocean, the unknown depths. It's a reminder that there are forces in this world that may forever remain beyond our comprehension.
And that in a way, ties back to the whole Leviathan myth, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not just about sea monsters anymore.
Mhm.
It's about this fear of the unknown, of things that are just too big, too powerful for us to really grasp.
That's a key element of the Leviathan's enduring appeal. It speaks to a primal fear, a sense of awe in the face of something much greater than ourselves.
And that brings us to how we use the word Leviathan today. Because we don't really fear sea monsters anymore, right?
Mhm.
But we still need ways to describe those massive forces that are kind of out there in the world, the things that feel way bigger than us.
Precisely. And Leviathan has become the perfect word for that. It's evolved to encompass those aspects of modern life that are both powerful and often quite unsettling.
I'm thinking about those examples Merriam-Webster gave, like that Leviathan of international corporations or the healthcare Leviathan. They're not literal monsters, of course, but they do kind of feel like it sometimes, don't they?
They evoke a similar sense of scale and complexity, perhaps even a hint of unease. After all, these are forces that can impact our lives in profound ways.
Yeah, it's like our language has adapted,
Yeah.
to describe the stuff that's going on around us. We might not be worried about actual sea monsters these days, but there's still this need to talk about those huge, powerful forces, the things that can feel kind of out of our control.
It's a fascinating evolution of language. The word Leviathan, it really captures that sense of something bigger than ourselves, something that can be both awe-inspiring and, at the same time, kind of scary.
Definitely. And it's not just about the size or the power either, right? There's also this element of the unknown, the unpredictable. Like, we think we've got these systems and institutions figured out, but then something happens and it's like, whoa, we're not really in control here.
It reminds us of the limits of human knowledge, that feeling of perhaps unease, of being at the mercy of forces we don't fully understand. It's a recurring theme in the Leviathan myth, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like those people in the tourist boats,
Yeah.
thinking they're just out for a nice day, and suddenly, bam, this massive creature appears out of nowhere.
Exactly. It serves as a reminder that there are things in this world that might always remain a mystery.
And that's why I think you see the word Leviathan pop up in so many books and movies, especially in titles. It's like a signal, Things are about to get intense, there are huge stakes, and the outcome is uncertain.
It creates a sense of foreboding, a hint that powerful forces are at play, forces that could disrupt everything we thought we knew.
Makes you want to find out more, doesn't it? Like, what kind of Leviathan are we dealing with here? It really grabs your attention. I'm curious, what about you, dear listener? What comes to mind when you hear the words Leviathan? Is it the actual sea monster? Is it some big, powerful institution? Maybe it's a metaphor for the unknown. Does it give you a sense of awe, fear, or maybe a little bit of both?
It's fascinating how a single word can evoke such a range of emotions and associations. It reveals so much about our individual perspectives, how we see the world.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the origins of Leviathan, the different ways it's defined, even that crazy viral video. But now I want to take things in a slightly different direction.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
What if we were to create like a modern-day myth about a Leviathan?
Now that's an interesting proposition. What kind of creature or entity would symbolize the biggest challenges, the anxieties of our time?
Exactly. What would be the 21st century version of that ancient sea monster? The one that really threatens to turn our world upside down, make us face our deepest fears.
It's a thought-provoking question. There are certainly plenty of contenders.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what about a technological Leviathan? Like some super advanced AI that gets out of control?
That's a valid concern, no doubt. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence does raise questions about the potential consequences, about what might happen if we create something that surpasses our own capabilities.
Or maybe it's an environmental Leviathan. Like, think about climate change. The effects are getting more and more intense all the time. It's a pretty formidable force to deal with.
Absolutely. Climate change is a global challenge with potentially catastrophic consequences. Mass displacement, resource scarcity, even global conflict. It's a Leviathan that demands our immediate attention.
And then there are the social and political Leviathans too, right? The things that shape our everyday lives. Things like, systemic inequalities, political polarization, the erosion of trust in our institutions. Those can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes.
Indeed. These are complex, multifaceted issues. They often feel intractable, as if they defy easy solutions. They require a deep understanding of their root causes, a willingness to engage in challenging conversations, to even begin to address them effectively.
So it seems like we have a whole bunch of potential candidates for our modern-day Leviathan myth. But the real question is, how do we deal with these challenges? Do we try to fight them head on, like those heroes in the old myths battling mythical beasts? Or is it more about finding a new way to coexist with these powerful forces, like adapt and evolve in the face of something that just feels way bigger than us?
That's the essential question, isn't it? And I'm not sure there's a simple answer. It probably requires a combination of approaches, proactive and adaptive. We need to draw upon our collective wisdom, our creativity, our resilience to find solutions that are both sustainable and equitable.
Maybe it's about, I don't know, maybe it's about changing our perspective a little bit. Instead of seeing these Leviathans as something to be scared of or something to conquer, maybe we need to start thinking about them as, well, as part of a larger ecosystem, something we need to understand and engage with in a more meaningful way.
That's a profound shift in thinking, moving from a mindset of domination and control to one of collaboration, of co-creation, recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our actions have far-reaching consequences.
So instead of trying to defeat the Leviathan, maybe we need to learn to, dance with it. Find a way to move in harmony with these powerful forces, respect their power, but also find a way to use it for good.
I love that analogy. It's about finding a more nuanced, sophisticated way of dealing with complexity, embracing both the challenges and the opportunities that come with living in a world of Leviathans.
It's about finding that balance, right? Recognizing the power of these forces, but also remembering that we have our own agency, our own ability to shape things.
Exactly. It's a dance that requires strength, flexibility, a willingness to both lead and follow, adapt and evolve.
And like any good dance, it's about finding the rhythm, the flow, the connection that allows us to move together in a way that's both exciting and, transformative.
It seems we've come full circle, haven't we? We began by exploring the ancient myth of the Leviathan, and now we're talking about dancing with these powerful forces in the modern world.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot, right? Where we acknowledge the power of these forces, but we don't let them completely overwhelm us. We still have a say in things.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and be passive. It's about finding that balance between respecting these forces and actively shaping our own destiny.
Right. And who knows, maybe by facing these challenges, by, acknowledging our fears and stuff, maybe that's actually how we turn those Leviathans from threats into opportunities, for growth and positive change.
That's a wonderful way to look at it. It reminds us that even when things seem really tough, really overwhelming, we still have the power to make things better, to find meaning and purpose even in the face of these huge challenges.
I like that. It's like, instead of trying to conquer the Leviathan, maybe we need to learn to, maybe coexist is a better word, or maybe even collaborate.
I think that's a really important point. It's a shift from seeing these forces as purely adversarial to recognizing that they might actually be essential parts of a larger system, and that just maybe, we can work with them instead of always against them.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Leviathan, what are some of the key things you hope our listeners will take away from this?
Well, first and foremost, I hope they come away with a broader understanding of the word itself. That it's not just about some mythical sea monster, it's about so much more than that.
It's about those powerful entities and concepts that we encounter every day, in the news, in our personal lives, everywhere.
Exactly. And secondly, I hope they understand that these Leviathans aren't inherently good or bad. They're complex, they can be awe-inspiring one minute and terrifying the next.
It's all about context, right? And how we choose to interact with them.
Precisely. And finally, I hope our listeners realize that they're not powerless. We all have the ability to learn, to adapt, to even influence these forces in ways that benefit us all.
We can make a difference. That's a powerful message.
It is, and it's an important one.
So to our listeners, the next time you hear the word Leviathan, whether it's in a book, a movie, or even just a conversation, take a second to think about what it really means. What kind of Leviathan are we talking about here? What are the challenges? And what are the opportunities?
And most importantly, ask yourself, what role can I play in creating a future where we can all thrive? Not just in spite of these Leviathans, but maybe even because of them.
It's about staying curious, asking questions, and embracing the fact that the world is a complicated place. And hey, that's what makes it so interesting, right?
I couldn't agree more.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to understanding those Leviathans in our lives.